Welcome to the Idea Climbing Podcast. Mentoring programs can skyrocket your organization's success if you have the right strategies. I discussed those strategies in this episode with my guest, Ken Rusk. Ken is passionate about helping people achieve their dreams regardless of their educational background or past. In his book, Blue Collar Cash, he shares some insights from over 30 years of working with blue collar trades as an entrepreneur, mentor, and life coach. We dive into topics such as how to create successful mentorship experiences with intrapreneurs, how to create a platform for mentorship within your organization, how to successfully co-create and achieve goals with your employees, and more golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Ken, thank you for being here for the Idea Climbing Podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. That's looking forward to our discussion today.
And we're going to talk about mentoring, which is one of my passion points. And I know it's important to you. And you mentioned how it's one of the best ways to grow a business as an entrepreneur. Before we get into the strategies and tips and tricks and such, why is mentoring important to you? What's the story there?
Well, first off, it should be incumbent upon anyone who is successful to give back to, the people that are following in their footsteps, following behind them. And I always think that it's such a great idea to shorten the learning curve for those who follow us, because you don't want people making a lot of expensive mistakes, whether they work for you or work for themselves. I mean, that's just part of being successful, to share those things. And, I think in order to grow your company, there's a whole lot that you can emulate, you can copy, you can rubber stamp, you can create in the image of the way you've done it, to where you can create individuals that are bulletproof. I mean, they're entrepreneurial at heart, and they win, you win, everybody wins at that point.
Can you speak a little bit more about intrapreneurial people in mentoring?
Yeah, sometimes I think I invented this word. I didn't, but I use it a lot. And so here's the thing. As an owner of a business, your goal should be a couple things. Number one, it should be to become as irrelevant to the business as possible from a mechanical daily standpoint. And I know people get all crazy and break out in hives when I say that, but it really is true. If you're going to be a visionary, you can't be involved in doing the day-to-day stuff, or at least not most of it. And so therefore, you have to put that off on people that are close to you, that you can create, who kind of feel like they are part of the management, part of the results, part of the budgeting, part of the finance, part of the scheduling, the planning. And they feel like they own it, even though they may not. And the reason that's so important is because, and I've said this many times in front of my staff of over 200, I can't get what I want, nor can my company get what it wants or needs, until all of you get what you want first. And it's simple. I mean, businesses are linear creatures. So, there's input coming in from the left, and there is work, there's product creation, there's service creation, whatever your bailiwick might be. And then there is sales, and hopefully revenue, and hopefully accounts receivable, and hopefully profit. And then you're at the end of that line. So as an owner, why wouldn't you want everyone else to win within that framework? Because the more they win, the more you're going to win in the end. It's always been that way.
What advice would you have? I mean, that's great once you've grown a company. What advice would you have for solopreneurs or co-founders as far as leveraging mentoring to grow their business?
Well, first off, you have to decide what's in it for you to do that. I mean, none of us have ever done anything without a reason. I mean, you get out of bed in the morning, you have a destination in mind: work, church, school, the office, whatever, grocery store, doesn't matter. And just like planning a vacation, which is something you typically anticipate for 3 or 4 or 5 months in the future, you need to be planning what you want to do with your life. And I'm talking about drawing it out to the most minute detail, creating a brochure that is, Ken Rusk or yourself or whoever that might be. You have to have a reason why you would want to do this. And once that reason is very clear, then turning around and sharing, the impetus for that, the motivation for that, and the replication of that to somebody next to you, below you, however you want to say it, that's everything. Because if I can get a group of people that I want to join my team that feel like they're in it for themselves first and me second, and they relish the fact that I'm allowing them to swim in that entrepreneurial pool in any way that they want, as long as they create a result and then share in that result. Now you've got something that's poised to get explosive growth.
What are some examples of characteristics of, well, we'll start with mentees. What makes a good mentee? What advice do you have for people for would-be mentees?
Well, it used to be you showed up to the interview early and you smiled and you were dressed well and you looked somebody in the eye and shook their hand. But now it's somebody who, and again, controversial, but someone who looks at you and says, "Hey, dude, what's in it for me to work here? Okay, like what's in it for me to do this?" You know, the ego in any manager or boss or hirer, if you will, the mentor, the ego in them wants to be like, okay, you're this person and I'm here to help you and I'm here to give you all these things that I know.
Mm.
And therefore, if I get asked that question, dude, what's in it for me to work here? You could be put off by that. But if you can answer that question in a way that motivates them to join your team, because remember, they have a million choices these days. Everybody's hiring, everyone's looking for help, everyone's looking for people to join their team. You have to differentiate yourself from all the others. And for me to answer the question, why are you here? Or this is what's in it for you to work here. This is the program I have that can create a life for you exactly the way you see it, not the way I see it. Now you're onto something.
So where does mentoring begin with entrepreneurship? Where does the process begin as far as if you're the one doing the mentoring, where does that begin?
The very first thing is, and I'll go back to that same question. Why are you here? Well, I'm here for a job. A job for what? A job to get paid. Paid for what? So I can pay my bills. Okay. Now let's get beyond the bills. What's the life look like? Okay. What's your next car look like? What's your next vacation look like? What's your house look like? Or what do you want your house to look like? If you had an extra $100, how would you give it away in some donation form? What's your spiritual future looking like? What's your hobby, your sport, your health? What's your pet? Is it a dog or a cat? What color? What would you name it? I want to know those things, because if I know that you're legitimately chasing a life for yourself within my framework, I can give you all the mentorship you can handle. It's the ones that are just there, to stamp a time card. I mean, that's not really who you're looking for if you're looking to grow your business.
So how do you go about what you just said? How do you go about giving mentorship?
Well, it's real simple. I provide them a platform for them to create what it is. I mean, I literally give them a poster board with a bunch of prompts on it and say, draw your life. Look at it this way. If I gave you a puzzle, a 1,000-piece puzzle, and I dumped all the pieces on your kitchen table, but then I took the box away, the cover, right? You'd have a really hard time building that puzzle. You might get the square edges done, but you're never going to fill in the center. I mean, it would be forever because you're missing the puzzle box. Now, if I'm doing this puzzle, I'm constantly staring at that puzzle box, right? I might have 1,000 pieces, but I might look at that puzzle box 10,000 times in the creation of that puzzle. So why are you trying to live your life without the puzzle boxes? I guess is what I'm saying. Why are you just waiting for life to happen to you instead of you happening to life? So mentorship is saying, I need you to see where your future is, and then together you and I can go get that.
Well, instead of waiting for life to happen, how do you approach a potential mentor? How do you start to create a mentoring experience for yourself?
Well, it's real simple. Once I know what it is that they want for their future, then I can simply provide them the opportunity and the environment in which to grow. In other words, I want them to be in charge of their input. I want them to be in charge of their output, the quality of that output. I want them to be fully owned on their schedule, their day, their time, and their financial gain. Because I can't ask them to build that puzzle that they've just drawn by dividing it into a million little pieces. I can't ask them to get that puzzle completed if I don't give them a vehicle to take them there, a vehicle that creates these individual timed pathways for them to win one piece, one goal, one next level at a time.
Personally to you, as an entrepreneur and employer, why is it important? Why do you think it's important to give them that puzzle box? Why is that so important to you?
because you want employees or team members or entrepreneur, introvert, whatever you want to call them. You want these people to be self-managing. I mean, the worst thing in the world is to want something more for somebody than they want for themselves. And frankly, if you really truly want to grow your business and you want to be in the visionary mode, there's no way you can sit there and mop up after people constantly. I mean, you need to have people that are impressing you by doing things better than you might even do them yourself. And that right there is normally driven by someone who is driven on their own, okay, because they have things that they want to accomplish with and through your organization.
As far as the bosses, what advice do you have for bosses to be good mentors?
Well, first off, you need to care. You need to have patience. You need to know how to look for characteristics. Um, and and you need to be able to drop the ego of, okay, me boss, you employee, banging your chest and going home on the weekends and saying to your spouse, oh man, I worked 80 hours this week and I fixed this, I changed that, I yelled at him, I changed this, I motivated this, I built that. I worked 80 hours and now I have high blood pressure and diabetes, but look at all the cool things I did, right? No, you want to put yourself in position to know what you want for yourself for doing it. And then, have the opinions, have the ownership, be vested in the future of these people. They will feel it, they will know it by your actions and your word choices, your emotions, whatever. And then they will become long-term, loyal, very productive employees who, by the way, will at some point say, hey, Ken, thanks for the training. Now that I see my direction for life, get out of my way and let me go do it. It's really a wonderful transition once you get there.
What are some examples? What are you currently doing for mentoring your people?
We have a big black glass goal board on the wall. It's huge. It's like 8 by 10 feet. And we have these neon markers like you'd see at the, I don't know, at the bar at a Mexican restaurant with the margarita special of the day, So we have them all, and we have people write down goals in specific detail. My name is, Ken Rusk, and on January 1st, I'm going to start saving to go to Scotland to play golf 2 years from today. And that's going to cost me $5,000. So I need to save $50 a week for 104 weeks. And it's already, the payroll clerk has already started that account and is pulling the money out every week. And then I sign it and then I date it. And everybody else sees that and they all know what I'm up to. And conversely, I know what they're all up to. We all own these goals together. We all high five their progress and their completion together. And as soon as they're done, we wipe them off and put another one up there. That's just one of probably 10 things that we do in order to get people to understand that this is a mentor-mentee friendly organization.
I love the fact that you're supporting your employees. I mean, go on a little bit more unpack that a little bit more, because I think that's important, and not a lot of, whether it's an entrepreneur or a boss, whatever it might be, I don't think a lot of people actively do it on the level that you're discussing. If I hear you right, what else do you do?
Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of recognition going on. There's a whole lot of bonus plans. There's weekly bonus plans, monthly bonus plans. There's quarterly bonus plans, annual bonus plans. And all of these things are based on how many things you're chasing and how often you're succeeding in getting these things. Again, if a boss, owner, manager, whatever you want to call it, if they can learn to drop the ego that is their own success and relish in the success of others, they will quietly have more success than they ever dreamed of. I had a meeting probably 10 years ago where I took small bits of paper and pencils. I passed them around to my inner circle of intrapreneurs. There's like 10 of them. And I said, I want you to all write down how much more revenue we can do this year than we did last year. And by the way, just know that I'm going to share some of that revenue with you if we hit that number. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you know it, every one of their revenue numbers was at least $1 million or $2 million higher than mine. So be careful that you're not your own self-limiter as a boss, owner, or manager, because you'd be surprised what happens with the power of this group. And wouldn't you know it, every year since then, they've hit those goals, on the number. And it's only because I myself wasn't holding them back, whether it was a conscious thing or a subconscious thing. I gave them, I don't want to say leash because that sounds bad, but I gave them a lot of levity, a lot of room to work, and a lot of freedom to work. And they just knock it out of the park every year. And the good news is they're winning for themselves first and for the company second, and that's fine by me.
How do you go about dropping the ego? I would imagine that can be difficult for some people.
It all goes back to what do you want? I mean, is your company running you or are you running it? I mean, why did you start this company to begin with? I mean, I don't work any more than 40 hours. I haven't in a very long time. And I do it on purpose because I have a boat, I have a golf course, I have some cars. I mean, I have my family, I have my dogs, I have my granddaughter, my wife, my daughter. We do a lot of really great things. We have a lot of fun. We work hard and we play hard. And that requires time. And the older you get, I think the more that you realize, Mark, that time is everything. I mean, time is probably your biggest, most valuable asset. So I don't want to wake up 70 again with all these stress related diseases or problems, but I have some money in my pocket. Sure, you can do both. You can have all the money you could ever imagine by giving up all of that control. And that's, I think, where people miss the boat because they think they have to rein in the whole thing in order to be successful, when in fact, letting go is the way to do it.
So do you recommend, or are you pushing people to achieve goals, or do you find that they're doing it on their own without pushing?
Once they put a goal up on the board, it's real easy to see whether or not that's a real goal, because if the action isn't taking place, well, I'll use the golf example. Let's assume someone put that golf example up on the board and 3 months in, they stop their money being deducted from their check and they spend it on something else. Well, then that's not real. So we get real specific and you can't put a goal up on that board unless you absolutely freaking own it. Okay. You have to own it, because we're not going to waste our time high-fiving you and pushing you along and seeing your progress and whatever if it's something that's just going to fizzle out. We're there to pick you up when you fall down on one knee. We're there to straighten you out when you're trying to turn around or go off track. So be careful what you wish for. It better be something you really want, and then the rest of us are 100% in.
So what criteria do you have? What makes a good goal?
Well, a good goal is one that has a timed pathway, like I just described. I mean, you don't want hopes or wishes or dreams. I mean, I can't put a goal up on that board that says, I wish I were taller, or, maybe someday I'm going to learn Spanish. I mean, no, it's got to be precise and exact. What makes a good goal is the feeling you get of anticipating its completion, much like you anticipate an upcoming vacation. You've got the smells, the sights, the sound, the colors, the feelings. You got it all wrapped up in this goal. I know that when I went golfing in Scotland, and that was one of my goals many, many years ago, I had the brochures for the golf courses. I had all the gear. I knew it was going to be cold and damp, and I knew the golf courses were going to be hard and fast because they're built on rock, basically. And I knew there was going to be a lot of history there. I knew that the food was going to be mediocre at best, but that's okay. I mean, the point is, we were there to go to the home of golf, where they almost suffered playing golf because it was inclement weather, and it was something to do. And so we embraced the rain, we embraced the cold, we embraced the wind, we embraced the conditions, because that was the home of golf. So it's kind of like landing on the moon. You know what I mean? You get off that rocket and you're landing in this dusty area, and you're like, okay, so what's this, right? But it's a thing you accomplish. It's something that not many people get to do, and we were very proud of that.
We have covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. When it comes to intrapreneurship, let me get that right, intrapreneurship and mentoring. If you were to tell someone, an entrepreneur or boss, at least do this when it comes to mentoring, at least do this one thing, what would you say? What would you tell them to do?
Give them a box of crayons and tell them to start drawing. Okay. The last time they had a box of crayons in their hand was probably when they were 5 years old. But it was also when they were at their most creative, least stressed. They were allowed to draw inside or outside the lines. They were allowed to draw whatever they wanted, a rocket or a horse or a sunshine or whatever.
Mhm.
Give them that freedom and the ability to sit quiet and dream about their future. Let them start drawing things out and then build timed pathways to get to each one of those things and then get the hell out of their way because they're going to do amazing things for you and your company.
This has been excellent. And if people want to find you online, where's the best place or places to go?
I would say they would go to kenrusk.com. You can see the book Blue Collar Cash there that I wrote. You can also get a copy of my online course that you can take that forces you to think about the things we just talked about in this particular show. And I'm also on socials at Ken Rusk Official, Ken Rusk RUSK Official. So you'll see me out there and you'll see what we're up to.
Thank you again. This has been excellent.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And scene.